This is the newspaper review segment. We'll start this by taking a look at the Daily Trust front page. Now, the major story here is on allegations against Nigeria, talking about what the Nigerian military ruler is saying. So there is more knocks for the Niger military ruler. That is Nigeria, of course, retaliating, like replying this leader, saying border communities and others hate the Chiani. His claims lack evidence. This is according to another West African country, Cote d'Ivoire, saying now this is the major story you find on page 4. Below that, we see army destroys 20 illegal refineries and recover 90,000 liters of fuel. High operating costs, multiple taxes stifle the telecom sector. Chad holds election after 3-year military rule. Well, that is a great, news for the West African states. Beside that, we see Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State welcomes additional 150 foreign postgraduate scholarship beneficiaries who completed their master's degree at the University of Sharda, India. That's really great one there. Hope we see more governors emulating this because we need to sponsor our students, then bring them back to serve their own country. There's flight disruptions. Sunset Airport's operation extend to 10 p.m. Another concern that the NCAA need to address. Below the headlines there, we see 179 die in South Korea's plane crash. Don't expect 2025 budget passage before January 31st. That's according to the Senate. How tears from Abuja demolitions blurred Wiki's effort in 2024. Indeed, I mean the minister indeed had done a great job when it comes to road. But then this demolition has hampered and just blurred that effort. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Daily Trust newspaper. Now let's head on to the Guardian newspaper, where the major story is on states that spend more than they earn to further rely on the FAC income. This you'd find on page 6. But below there, you see pictorials of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission. They're talking, wishing that's during the festivities. Also, there's a pictorial of Governor Usman Ododo of Kogi State, Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak of Kwara, Governor Basi Otu of Cross River State, and the First Lady of the Cross River. Also, a lot of top officials at the Calabar Carnival of 2024, another very beautiful tourist attraction opportunity for Nigeria. Below that, we see many federal roads in poor conditions at Ulitai despite Umahi's pledges. Interesting there. Lagos churches, mosques, clubs and nightclubs to get noise permits. 2027 Alia Akume rift may harm APC's chances, North Central Forum wants. Below that, we see Atiku faults full military honors accorded Tinubu's son. Sarab tax Tinubu on assets declaration in presidency. And NAS, Naira that's between the CBN's regulatory pushback and a thriving mint market. These are the stories that, or some of it, that you would find on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's look at the Punch newspaper quickly. Top of the page, we see new Owa Obokun gets staff of office begins right. I brought you back to life politically. Wiki slams Odili. Interesting. Ex-US President Jimmy Carter dies at 100. Beside the headmaster, we see CBN misappropriated 2.7 trillion naira interest on ways and means. This according to Auditor General. Major story, Niger border towns live in fear over brewing row. Communities in border states plead for peaceful resolution and debunk Niger leaders' claim of French troops in Nigeria. Below that is we see a pictorial of the plane crash that happened in South Korea, where the federal government sympathizes with South Korea at 179 die in plane crash. Below that, we see Senate gets budget panel reports for January 31st. In-laws defilement. Lagos challenges convicted doctors acquittal at attacks at the Supreme Court. Nigeria gets World Bank $1.5 billion for subsidy removal and tax bill. Now, joining us, of course, to do justice to these front pages virtually, we have the former director of news, Voice of Nigeria, Ben Shameek. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Let's start by this brewing tension, allegations from the Niger to Nigeria, and then Nigeria clarifying, saying, oh, we're not doing that. That's just a hearsay and all of that. What is your take on this tension?
Well, I hope the military man in Niger Republic, Abdurrahman Chani, is not sinking and is looking to just hold on any straw available to survive. If not, why this wild allegation? And look at what the border communities in Niger Republic and in Nigeria, what they are saying. They've not seen anything of that nature. I am aware and I know the borders between Nigeria and Niger around the Sokoto axis. From Ilela, you enter Koni, you go down to Dosu. And the areas in which this man is talking about, that there is a military base, one of the traditional rulers or district heads around the area is saying that, look, those villages he's calling, some don't even exist. And even if they exist, we know that the social media today, the phone have cameras, people always snap and share. So I think that the military strongman there is just, he has just embarked on a wild goose chase. And I think that it doesn't augur well for him. He tried to recruit Senegal, Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is saying no, there's nothing of this nature. And the issue is simply that because ECOWAS at the point sanctioned them and still sanction them, and they felt they should form their own federation. Then the next thing was, you say Nigeria is sponsoring terrorism. How can Nigeria sponsor terrorism to kill its own citizens? So there are things that some people should talk that are rational, that should be believable. Now, even his own citizens are saying, no, those things do not exist.
Yeah. All right. In that regard, of course, we're still waiting for Niger, and hopefully we get to see the positive result out of this chaos. Talking about ECOWAS now, Chad holds its election after 3 years of military rule. Now, I know they give about 3-year transition period, which was what ECOWAS was pushing for from Niger, Burkina Faso, and even Mali. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it is a good thing that people simply imbibe democracy. It's where the rulers will always test the will of the people. If you are popular and you give them what they want, you can always rule them. So if there was a transition, first the full military blast, the government, the military took over after the death of Idris Deby. Now the son is there, Mohammed, and he has conducted election for presidential, which he won, even though the opposition cried foul. It's always expected in Africa. Again, he announced the transition program. Now we're going to see legislative elections, regional and even local level. So that tells you there's going to be full-blown democracy in Chad. And the point of interest, if you check, Tinubu has visited Chad. And Buhari visited Chad. The point of interest is that if Chad is destabilized, it will affect Nigeria. Bearing in mind that, like Buhari will say, and many security agencies, agency heads, they'll say because of the instability in Libya, guns, means of destabilizing Nigeria are entering from Libya to Chad, Niger, then they come into Nigeria. So it's good that Nigeria monitors situations there. It's good that Nigeria become a friendly nation to Chad so that Nigerians can sleep well.
Yeah, so we know the Senate that said from January 7th there is going to be, a head of MDAs coming in to defend their budget that was submitted. But then now the Senate is saying we should not expect the implementation of the budget and the passage of it by the end of 31st of January. What do you think about, what the Senate are doing and how, slow it might be, which was not the intention of the president when he submitted the budget at the earliest?
Yes, if the budget had been submitted earlier, I think the tradition of January to December would have been met. That's the passage of the bill, yes, the bill into a formal budget. But when it came in a bit late, and you have agencies that will always refuse to go defend their proposals, it's at the point not the fault of the lawmakers. You look at what the executive is doing to defend a budget before the Senate or the Parliament is the purview of the executive. So every ministry will go with agencies under them and defend their budget sector by sector, and that is how it works. But if that was not done, then the Senate cannot work magic. But one would have expected that there would have been synergy before now, because so soon the mockery nature of Nigerians, when you want something from someone, some money, he tells you wait for the federal government budget. So that tells you it's a subtle way of criticizing the National Assembly. So if people have the hearts of Nigeria at hand, they should be able to work according to laid down time. There's always never a good time. And there are also stubborn agencies that always feel as if they are above the National Assembly. Call them for defense, they'll call the bluff. And, so sometimes the Senate or the House, the National Assembly will have to hold some sanctions to ensure that people actually obey the law.
Indeed. All right, let's talk about states now. Now there's been a concern, talk about how the states spend more than they earn. Now this is the major story on The Guardian. And it says there is going to be a case of further rely on the FAC income. Now, this is one of the reasons why Nigerians pushed for, autonomy of the local government, and it's yet to even be implemented after 6 months. What is your take, and how do you foresee this major challenge with a tax reform bill being pushed of how the derivation would be shared and, coming of the 2025? Where do you see Nigeria going with these cases of states not really generating their own?
Yeah, you see, one is worried. Here we're talking about tax reforms in Nigeria. Well, it is good if it's going to bring some goodies to Nigerians. But a situation where you see very poor people are being taxed the more, where is the development? And you also have what we call double taxation. Some banks are cited in some states. The states are busy closing them and saying that, look, you are not paying so tax. Now, those banks will tell you they've paid and it has gone to headquarters. So you can see double taxation there. Sometimes one is driving, you pass through some local governments, you see some guys with timbers and irons, nails placed across the road. They're asking you whether you pay taxes. You could be moving from Akwa Ibom to Maiduguri, but you are stopped how many times asking for tax. So when you say, it doesn't augur well. Now you're going to do a reform about a tax. How does it affect the common man? Why is it that they are not targeting those who have private jets? They have parked for how many years without flying them? Why are they not targeting as luxury? Luxury as per someone going to buy a car over 300 million, 500 million. You know, why don't you tax those luxuries and leave the common man who is simply hawking some items here and there to survive?
But
People of
one
the
of the
informal
concern
sector of the
about this,
economy has to be
Ben, I don't know if
spared.
you're with us. One of the major concern here is why are our states not generating its own internal, revenue? Why are we relying so much on, the tax that will be given from taken to the federation and then would get the FAC allocation?
Yeah, you see, there has to be a willing mind to implement some taxes or even generate money. When Wike came into Abuja, of course, the impression we were given was that there was no money anywhere in FCT. But Wike just went into the books and just realized he could collect money via ground rents. So every house that is legally allocated, embassies, higher commissions, hotels, businesses, even those belonging to government, Wike said, you've not paid this. And if you don't pay, we revoke. Then people started paying. He brought out the names and even how much was owed. It became an embarrassment to many of them. So they started paying. And you can see that Wike is actually transforming Abuja. So why is it that at the state level, people wouldn't want to go into all of that? When you go into all of that, they say the government is draconian, the government wants to squeeze life out of the ordinary people. Now, how do you do this? If you are able to get some tax from these people, you also provide some amenities. What about the feeder roads? These are roads that in the local governments that actually they bring in food that will come into the cities. So
All right, I think the network is failing us, but yes, it's already even time to wrap up. Ben Shameek, appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning to talk about the front pages of the national dailies. Hope you enjoyed the 2 hours. You were fully informed and equipped with what is going on in terms of security and all of that. Now, we got even messages that we could not read, but appreciate everyone that made effort to sit through our show. Ben Shameek, thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right, with that, we've come to the end of a Daybreak this Monday morning, 30th of December 2024. Please do stick around. Top of the hour, Emmanuel Fashimi will bring you the 360 Sports. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely Monday.